In the popular version of the story, NVIDIA just happened to stumble into a $1 trillion opportunity when the generative AI boom suddenly took off. The story makes it seem like a hardware company was simply standing in the right place at the right time. But as this data suggests, NVIDIA's dominance was not an accident. It was the result of a very specific infrastructure bet that started more than 2 decades ago. While much of the tech world focused on the software side of artificial intelligence, NVIDIA was quietly building the physical layer that these AI systems would eventually need. Today, the world's biggest tech companies are spending billions trying to build rival processors, but they are struggling because they are trying to solve today's hardware problem without the 20-year foundation NVIDIA already has underneath it. The entire industry is now operating inside an environment that NVIDIA spent 20 years designing. To understand that foundation, we have to go back to 1999. NVIDIA was originally built around drawing 3D video game worlds. Rendering realistic textures requires a huge number of math operations happening at the same time. You cannot do that one step at a time. You need massive parallel processing. Traditional CPUs, shown on the left, use a smaller number of powerful cores to handle complex logic step by step. GPUs work differently. They use thousands of smaller cores to handle many math problems at the same time, and modern neural networks need that exact type of parallel architecture to scale. So the same hardware design that helped render video game worlds turned out to be the perfect math engine for artificial intelligence. But hardware is only useful if researchers and developers can actually work with it. NVIDIA solved that problem in 2006 with a software layer called CUDA. CUDA allowed developers to move beyond the limits of traditional graphics tools and write custom math code directly for NVIDIA GPUs. That turned the GPU from a graphics component into a fully programmable computing platform. Over the next decade, researchers and developers wrote millions of lines of code and built entire libraries around CUDA. That foundation reached critical mass in late 2022. When ChatGPT created a sudden surge in demand for computing power, every company suddenly needed massive parallel processing, and NVIDIA was the only company ready for that moment. Their ecosystem was already built, tested, and waiting. When the AI gold rush began, NVIDIA was not just selling the shovels, it already controlled the entire supply chain for the mining equipment. Today, AI workloads are so massive that a single processor is not enough. The scale of modern computing has changed what a machine even is. This breakdown shows how NVIDIA understood that shift. They moved from selling individual chips to selling full-stack infrastructure. Instead of just offering GPUs, they now help connect thousands of GPUs together into one massive unified system. Competitors are spending billions trying to build faster physical chips, hoping to challenge NVIDIA at the hardware level. But the chip itself is only half the story. NVIDIA's software ecosystem creates a kind of gravitational pull that is very hard to escape. A competitor could release a better chip, but convincing researchers and companies to walk away from decades of CUDA-optimized code is a much harder challenge. So NVIDIA's hardware lead is real, but it is reinforced by a software layer that has become almost inseparable from the machine itself. At this scale, computing infrastructure has become one of the biggest expenses for major tech companies. That creates a massive financial reason for them to try to escape NVIDIA's control. The industry is now splitting into different strategies for building alternative infrastructure. First, there are merchant challengers like AMD, which offer high memory hardware alternatives. Second, there are custom hyperscalers like Google and AWS, which design their own chips for their own internal workloads. This is no longer just a competition over chips. It is a global battle over data centers, power grids, networking systems, and the infrastructure behind artificial intelligence. NVIDIA laid the foundation for the AI economy, and in this new industrial age, the ultimate winner may not be the company that builds the best tool. It may be the company that builds the entire city.